now I know putting reverb on a sub is a deadly sin, but is it really that bad? And why does everyone think this rule should never be broken? Well, basically, if you put reverb on an otherwise clean sub bass, like this sine wave for example, the reverb does its reverbing and hence let the sub ring a little bit longer than it may should. And when the sub then plays different notes, we end up with multiple notes blending into each other. With higher frequencies this may not be as much of a problem, but with low sub frequencies it's getting pretty dissonant pretty fast. For instance, here with the piano you can play a chord. Sounds nice. Then you have the same thing down here. Sounds extremely wag. Now the problem that comes with that is that since multiple sub frequencies are overlapping, the whole thing starts to clip. Not nice. Besides dissonance and clipping, there's also another thing that can happen when you put reverb on bass. Phase issues. So what does this mean? Basically, if you have one sine wave that looks like this and one that looks like this, and you play them together, you will hear nothing, because both sine waves cancel each other out. Of course, when you put reverb on sub, not the whole thing is gonna cancel out, but you can definitely hear that the volume goes up and down from time to time. And usually you want a nice, thick, clean sub, not the volume up down bullshit. But why after all this the title still says putting reverb on a sub is good? Well, you can do cool stuff with it if you know what you're doing. Otherwise sucks, yeah, true. So now let's quickly get the most obvious stuff you can do with reverbs and subs out of the way. Often when you have a song, the sub bass doesn't consist only of bass frequencies. When you have a sine wave, some white noise, and you distort and compress the whole thing together, there's a lot of mid and high end. Maybe you just have an electric bass, there's also a lot of mid and high end. So what you can do, of course, without running into any problems, is reverbing the whole thing except the sub frequencies. For that, pretty much any reverb plugin out there has a low cut filter implemented. It's that easy, and by the way I just demonstrated the whole thing on the sub of my latest track, feedback link in the description. Anyhow, you can not only just reverb everything except the sub, you can also reverb the sub frequencies themselves. I know, shocking use, but it's possible. For instance, everywhere where there is a short note which is not followed up by other notes it could interfere with, reverbing is a safe thing. And now you can play around, you can create some brass type sounds which works very well with saw waves. You can also create some nice swells, for instance with this distorted sub. And you know it sounds nice, but where it gets really dope is when you resample that and reverse it. This is just great. What's also possible is to make some low boom Jurassic Park T-Rex is coming type sounds. What you can also try is to use the reverb to add some release to the sub, but I would be very careful with that and would always recommend to just use the release in the synth you're using if possible. So you can see you have endless things to try out and play around with, and we can officially say even the most carved in stone deadly synth type rule, like not putting reverb on a sub, should be broken from time to time.